Hey everyone, Dr. Qureshi here at the Noor Effect, and I'm proud and privileged to be joined by the wonderful and amazing Dr. Rahul Singh, board-certified hematology oncologist, practicing here in Northern Virginia. Nice to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So, as you guys know, we're taking a deeper push into wellness and longevity, particularly longevity medicine. And there's certain topics that are quite hot right now, and I thought, you know what, it might be the time to bring a real smarty pants, a board certified oncologist who's quite healthy himself and lives a good, healthy life to help answer some of these questions for us. So we'll start along the topics of peptides. The most, I guess, obvious question is, what is a peptide and how is it different from a vitamin or a hormone? It's all the rage these days.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So peptides are basically like, there's a thing called amino acids, and they're basically short forms of amino acids that are targeted towards something, whether it's like your muscle, your skin, or something like that, rejuvenation. Vitamins are more like the minerals that feed what we need. And then hormones are like their actual mechanisms that drive functions in our body. And so those are the three different ways I try to look at it, more of a global perspective.
Why are peptides so talked about right now? Why are they all the rage? What has happened that made them so cool?
Well, so I think the loss of regulation, and now it's like the wild, wild west, and everybody's developing a peptide to target something to try to enhance a part of the body for positive effects, obviously. And so, like I said, it's the FDA is not currently regulating it, and so that definitely has driven a lot of people.
Well, actually, they are.
They are.
They have this thing called the Category 2 list, and they put 20 of the most popular ones on that list, meaning don't give them to humans.
Right.
And they made the exception to allow for research use only. So they're kind of half regulating them, but they become all the rage. I guess a lot of celebrities and biohackers and gurus out there who are obviously not physicians are promoting peptide therapy as this newer alternative medicine that is more beneficial and superior to our boring Western medicine.
Right.
What are the most popular peptides that people are using right now?
So
any of them FDA approved?
No, well, there are some FDA-approved drugs that are like peptides. These are gliptides that we use, but I don't think that's what you were focused on. So there's a bunch. The top three, there are, I think it's like TMP or
TB500.
That's probably the most popular one. And then there's a couple more on those in that assortment, but none of them are actually FDA approved. So I think the craze is to try to catch lightning in a bottle in a way, but not research proven. Meaning, if you're trying to enhance something by developing a medication that's not regulated by the FDA, we don't really know what the true efficacy or how good that medication will actually perform.
If you look on Reddit, Reddit has a lot of these blogs where people are, putting up statements like, I went on peptide therapy and I no longer have pain. I no longer am fat. I'm no longer am this. They're having chronic complaints and these peptides seem to be a cure. How much of that is actually true?
I don't know if I want to believe all of that. You don't know the whole story.
Correct.
And honestly, if I took the same peptide as you, I don't know how my body's going to metabolize it versus your body's going to metabolize it. We don't really have any controls to prove that that's actually the case of the peptide being the reason why the person got the way they were or other factors. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. I think there's, like I said, we've talked about this before, there's a lot of misinformation out there. You have to be careful what you read.
But the peptides aren't new, though. I've been reading that the Soviets have been studying it since the 1950s even, right?
Right. I mean, they're just amino acids. I mean, it's just depending on how you formulate it. We've had these for a long time, cocktails of drugs with different types of amino acids. So you're right, yeah. Just getting the craze now, yeah. I
think the most popular peptide everybody obviously knows about are the GLP-1s that are FDA approved, semaglutide, which is Wegovy, and tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro, and Zepbound. These are FDA approved
They are.
for weight loss. Um, do you think? Well, most likely, when these guys got approved and they worked, I guess people then thought, well, if these peptides work, all peptides must work, right?
No, not true. I mean, that could be a conception that people have, but I think it's a misconception that people would think that that's the same because these drugs went through scrutiny to get approved.
Correct.
They had to be put through what we call phase 3 randomized placebo-controlled trials.
Who pays for that?
Big pharma pays for that. But I know I know we all don't like big pharma in a way, but sometimes it's necessary because when you synthesize a drug, it's a compound that's patent, and that same compound is replicated. And when you're generating a peptide that could be compounded, you don't really know if it's the same formulation that's going into it every single time. So you don't know.
You're describing compounding as though like the way
The way it's manufactured.
Okay.
Right. So I think that plays a big role in understanding the differences between the two, and you can't really draw a conclusion saying some of these peptides are the same as, semaglutide for example.
So, in the world of GLP-1s, people want to lose weight.
Correct.
Novo Nordisk became the richest company in the world, actually, at one point, outside of Norway. When they got the FDA approval, they got Wegovy, and they were crushing it, $1,300 to $1,400 MSRP for the drug. All those FDA approved, almost no insurance companies were paying for it because, they viewed obesity is more of an aesthetic problem than a medical one, and also they just don't want to pay.
Right.
And there's so many Americans who have this problem, they're going to run out of money, I think. So regardless, people wanting to lose weight. I mean, obesity affects people in multiple ways. It affects their self-image. Their chronic. They can get chronic pain. Their health, stroke, all this risk it can affect. So I guess my question to you is how can we study the peptides better? I think the two most prominent peptides that are on every vlog and blog right now are BPC 157 and TB 500. Why? Because people claim that they're having regeneration, they're having pain relief, they're having damaged tissues better. I'm not going to say that's not true because millions of people are obviously buying it and they're promoting it. So maybe it's true, but at the same time, there are a lot of things people say that may not be totally true. We don't have a way to check it. Now you made an interesting point. You said that when it comes to a drug, a lot of our research comes from big pharma. Well, you're right. These are expensive. They are doing a randomly controlled trial with lots of people. It costs almost hundreds of millions of dollars to do the research and development of it. But why is it that way? Why do we have to do it that way? Why can't we just do, why can't we rely on the data that exists for peptides out of Soviet Union, these kind of places? They had their data too, but of course they were not a lot of human data.
Right.
They were on animal studies. Why isn't their data good enough?
In a world of society where we have regulations, I think you have to understand there's got to be a checks and balances system. Because if you're going off of old data, Soviet Union, for example, I don't think that's going to draw a parallel to our population. I think we already know that our population, U.S. and in the world, everybody's different in how we metabolize things, food, drugs. I think it needs to be studied in our population. It has to be in a larger scale.
Who pays for it?
Who pays for it? Pharma or the government.
So pharma doesn't want to pay for it. Why?
That's a good question. It's probably because it costs a lot. I mean, I think for not knowing what the end result's going to be, no one wants to fork over that kind of money. And if insurances aren't going to pay for it, then why do it?
Insurances weren't paying for Wegovy, and people spent millions, if not billions of dollars buying it and made Novo Nordisk the richest company. There was a study several years back. There was a naturally occurring peptide in the body that the pharmaceutical wanted to patent, and the judge ruled that nope, any molecule that is naturally occurring, you can't just take it and patent it because it wasn't yours. It was already existing in the world. So what happened was, in order for them to make a patent and protect their intellectual property, it has to be something unique. So if these 5 fingers are floating in the world, I can't patent it because it's all over the world. It's naturally there. But if I take one of the fingers and bend it like this, now it's a completely new thing.
Right.
Now I can patent this for 15 or so years and charge whatever I want to charge and sell it in the public. So we have a problem now, I think, where when it comes to research and studies, Big Pharma is the one that has the money and the machinery to do it. But they're only going to do it if there's a financial incentive for them. So they want to, recoup those losses on the R&D side.
Right.
Now, I know that there's NIH and they fund a lot of studies, but they've been having budget cuts. So it's harder for them to fund studies. So I mean,
I think they have to look at what. I know it's sad. They have to look at what's going to generate them profit, and I think one thing that we're kind of alluding to is there's this thing called metabolic syndrome.
Yeah.
And there are many diseases that kind of run together, that we see flow together, like diabetes, like obesity, like sleep apnea, high blood pressure. And if they can get a drug that could be indicated for one of these conditions, then you're right. That's a profitable thing for these companies.
So, on the subject of obesity, how did we get there? How do we get to obesity? I was watching recently Police Academy, one of my favorite movies of the '80s, and it's a great film. And I was watching it, and I noticed in the movie, the so-called fat people, they'd just be normal guys now. We wouldn't call them fat anymore. They'd just be one of the guys.
Right.
And but in general, you notice when you watch those movies, that one and Caddyshack, all these prominent movies from the '80s, they're all pretty thin people.
Yeah.
Even I saw, on YouTube, it was on for free. I don't know why, but it was White Men Can't Jump. That's early '90s. Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes, and everyone there is, again, they're pretty fit.
Right.
But when you start watching more modern movies, there's obviously more obesity in the film, and there's that. So I'm just curious, from your understanding or your opinion, how did we as Americans get to a point where this obesity thing began and it's gotten so bad? A lot of people, if you ask the average American, he's going to blame McDonald's. It's an easy answer. McDonald's and the diet, it sucks. That's why we're here. But I don't know, man. McDonald's been out since 1956. Dennis the Menace didn't look like this.
No, he didn't. No.
The Munsters didn't look like this. Lucy didn't look like this. The Police Academy, all 5 of the sequels didn't look like this. Wesley Snipes didn't look like this.
Never looked like that.
No one looked like that. So how do we get here?
I think it's twofold. I believe that yes, diet probably does play a role, but genetics and how it's modified plays a big role. And I think like we learn that there's something called insulin resistance in people. So diabetes comes in different fashions. A small, slender person could have diabetes, and someone who's 300 pounds could not have diabetes. So I think a lot of that is genetics and how it's modified, and then you add in what the current diet could be. And then you get like this perfect swirl of issues that can lead to accumulation and obesity developing.
How come Americans are obese, but I don't know, the French aren't?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, movement, right? I think we kind of had a discussion about this. That I think, what do we do here? I mean, we're a large country. What is our mode of transportation? We're here in Washington D.C. I mean, we have a metro, but it's not really accessible to everywhere. And if you get on 495 and you're driving, you could be sitting in your car for an hour and a half and go like a mile, right?
So the car may have contributed.
I think we're not moving as a public.
But the first car came out early 1900s.
Yeah.
So they've had a car for a while.
Right.
So how come they weren't like this in 1940?
I think probably twofold, right? So we're not moving I think we're not moving, like moving as in walking, engaged in physical activity. Our lifestyle spends more time on a 9 to 5 job. They probably weren't working, or if they were working, they're more physically involved. You'll see a lot now of people being stagnant, laying on the couch, watching television, occupying themselves in a non-movement way.
The 40s and the 30s had radio. People used to
Yeah.
gather on the radio, just listen to the radio.
Yeah.
Then 50s, the television came out. But 60s and 70s, again, they're not
Yeah.
looking like us
Yeah.
today.
I would say it's not one driving factor, right? I think also we're a blend of a lot of cultures. We're all bringing our genetics from different parts of the world. Like even if you study,
But notice obesity is actually not racist. Obesity is actually pretty open-minded. It's
Yeah.
affecting every group here, whether they're from Asia or they're African American. Some more disproportionately than others, but it's getting worse. Um, you know, you and I, we're first generation Americans. We both have parents from other countries. I used to notice about myself whenever I would go back to visit my family in Pakistan. We had this joke that we're like these chickens. When you take them to a certain village, they lose this weight, and I never understood what it was. I used to think, okay, maybe it's hot and we're just sweating a lot. I really believe that.
Right.
But it is true. If I were to show you my pictures, when I first get there, when I'm leaving, I look like two different people. And I had learned in my travels along the world that, as an American, I have this concept of Europe and the rest of the world that they're all like suddenly eating vegan and doing yoga.
Yeah.
That's not true.
No, that's not true.
No. And when I was, in my travels, I went to France. I saw people eating ice cream and chocolate. They were eating large loaves of bread. They were smoking a lot, and they were drinking a lot of champagne. They have a siesta from 11 to 1. They have their champagne and they're passed out. And I'm just like thinking, man, that's not healthy. But then why do they look so good? But then you are right. In terms of movement, there is more movement. Why?
Yeah.
Because they're not sitting on 495 like we are for 1 hour.
No.
Each way, they have to walk to the bus, walk to the tram, walk to the train. When they have the groceries, they carry the bag over the shoulder while they're walking to catch this mass transit. And I noticed something similar in other parts of the world. Tokyo was the same way. Tokyo, Japan, there's 40 million people living in a very small quarter.
Yeah.
So there is no room to even drive a car.
For example, I was in the Amalfi Coast, and to get from where you live to maybe the beach, you're climbing 100 steps.
Yeah.
And there's an 85-year-old person doing this. And here, try to find an 85-year-old person that might be able to climb 100 steps. A 45-year-old person may not be able to.
They're out of breath too.
Right? So it's impressive. They've trained themselves, but not just in spurts. It's not like I'm going to go to the gym for an hour, I'm going to crank out my workout, and I'm good for the whole day. These people are constantly moving. It's probably good for their cardiovascular health, for to basically lean out the fat in their body and generate muscle. I think it's a big. But I do think this thing called risk factor modification. So it's all of it together. It's how our body processes it. So you're taking the person from France, their body can handle. There's something about their body that can handle it differently than the person here handles the food differently. The way they're breaking it down probably and metabolizing it is probably different.
A lot of my patients who are very religious, they go in these, when they have the groceries, they carry the bag over the shoulder while they're walking to catch this mass transit. And I noticed something similar in other parts of the world. Tokyo was the same way. Tokyo, Japan, there's 40 million people living in a very small quarter.
Yeah.
So there is no room to even drive a car.
For example, I was in the Amalfi Coast, and to get from where you live to maybe the beach, you're climbing 100 steps.
Yeah.
And there's an 85-year-old person doing this. And here, try to find an 85-year-old person that might be able to climb 100 steps. A 45-year-old person may not be able to.
They're out of breath too.
Right? So it's impressive. They've trained themselves, but not just in spurts. It's not like I'm going to go to the gym for an hour, I'm going to crank out my workout, and I'm good for the whole day. These people are constantly moving. It's probably good for their cardiovascular health, for to to basically lean out the fat in their body and generate muscle. I think it's a big, but I do think this thing called risk factor modification. So it's all of it together. It's how our body processes it. So you're taking the person from France, their body can handle. There's something about their body that can handle it differently than the person here handles the food differently. The way they're breaking it down probably and metabolizing it is probably different.
A lot of, my patients who are very religious, they go on these, trips to Honduras and these countries to help relief work. But I noticed they all kind of have one similar story. Man, I lost all this weight in Honduras. I lost all this weight in this country. Why is it that we're losing weight there? And on the flip side, when those people come here, they start gaining weight. Yeah. What is it about America? Is it the water? I mean, what is it here that causes it?
I think it's the water. I think it's the diet. I think it's, like I said, I think there needs to be a deeper dive in what is in our diet and what we're eating. I know McDonald's is everywhere, but I think our diet is. I think I read that just like in Italy, the pasta in Italy is very different than the pasta here. It's the way, like when I went to Italy, like usually if I eat pasta like every day, my gut's going to be torn up, But I could eat pasta every day in Italy and I felt fine the next day, So it kind of brings true to it's something about how things are made there. Maybe it's fresh, maybe it's not. That plays a big role. It could be the water. It could definitely be the water.
But I had a patient once. She came in and she had lost a lot of weight. I was surprised. Right. She looked really good. She lost 30 pounds. Like, oh, what are you doing differently? You always get curious. She goes, oh, I started, tirzepatide. I was, oh, good for you. I'm happy for you. And we started talking, and I was like, did you try that exercise? She's like, I did. She's like, I counted my macros. I would do CrossFit 3 days a week. She used to do that. I'm like, yeah. And you didn't get results? She's like, no, I didn't. But she's like, what's weird? Whenever I was deployed to Europe, especially like Germany, she's like, for some reason I lost weight over there. I was like, did you drink less alcohol there or something? She's like, no, I actually drank more. So I began quizzing her, like, what was it different? Because, I've been fascinated by what happens here versus other places. A lot of Americans are joining these gyms and doing these very aggressive workouts. Right. CrossFit's one of those big ones. They're doing these high-intensity workouts. There has been data that has come out that shows that, it is better to do mild to moderate cardiovascular activity more consistently throughout the day than be sedentary all day and then 1 hour do this intense activity. There's no major, cardiac benefit. There's increased risk of injury from that kind of diet or that kind of a lifestyle. So I guess, my personal thinking is I'm going to make a very controversial statement that's probably going to get backlash, but I think obesity is inevitable here.
I mean, there's a picture of a map of America. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen that, where they break it down by color coding BMI. Yeah. And it's just red and darker red, throughout the United States. So, and that probably wasn't that 40 years ago. No. So you're right.
Something happened.
Something happened. Something needs to undo that. Yeah. For us to get healthier in life.
So, a common belief that we hear is, you're fat because it's your fault. It's your fault. You're lazy. And I take issue with that because America has one of the highest GDPs in the world. Yeah. If I was to measure productivity, the GDP is what I like to point to. Yeah, yeah. They work very hard. They have the least vacation time in the developed world, least vacation time, longest work hours, and nowadays, in this gig economy, they have multiple jobs. I personally don't know anybody, even physicians, who have just one job now. Even my physician friends have their one main job, whether it's the hospital or the clinic, but then they have other jobs. They're consulting, they're starting other companies. Everyone has more than one job, which may have potentially fueled inflation in and of itself. But, I think it's beyond just diet. I mean, McDonald's was there since the 50s. Now, is it more unhealthy now? Maybe, sure. But, the government's started to be more aware too. Like, okay, we better look into this. But nothing seems to be changing. Like, we had to come out with these GLP-1s for weight loss, which the data is showing is working.
Correct. Yeah.
It is changing behavior. When I go on Amazon now, I'm seeing the rise of these mocktail brands like Del Sol and these kind of places. And I started wondering, man, why did Americans suddenly want to drink mocktails? Why doesn't anyone want to drink alcohol anymore?
Yeah.
And the data suggests that the GLP-1s are the reason why.
Yeah, it's amazing.
GLP-1s, you know how they work. They basically slow down your gut. They basically act as a speed bump in your digestive pathway.
Yeah.
So instead of driving 60 miles an hour on I-95, you put a bunch of yellow speed bumps everywhere. You have to slow it down. A GLP-1 mimics glucagon-1 like peptide. So you take it, and your brain thinks, okay, you just had a nice big meal. Let's slow it down and digest it, but you didn't. And what happens is you've created a traffic jam. And now what happens is, what can you eat? You can totally eat something easy to digest, like a berry or a salad. But if you try to eat something complicated, processed, heavily oily or fatty, like a burrito or a taco,
Right.
cheese pizza, you're going to get sick. Alcohol, before it becomes alcohol, is a sugar. It's a sugar. So what's happening is these guys, I joke with my friends, when I go to a party now, I know which girls are on the GLP-1, which one's not.
Yeah.
When they're hanging out with their friends, and there's like 6 of them, and they're doing shots, the ones who are doing 4, 5, 6, 7 shots, and they're fine, they're not on it.
Yeah.
But the ones who are on this, holding the same cup or the same drink, and they're not getting more, it's like, why aren't you drinking more? Oh, I'm good. Like, okay.
Yeah.
You're on a GLP-1 probably, which is fine. Which is fine. But
Right.
a year ago, I was one of those doctors too who kind of looked down on it, and I thought, oh my God, we're so lazy. Why can't we lose weight? But this has been a crisis that's been going on for 40 years, and it's been getting worse. And it's just. There's CrossFit, which is one of the most popular high-intensity, trainings. There's apps that make you work out, and there are people who are working out. There are people who have. I've seen patients. My patients have shown me their Apple Watch monitors that they're getting their steps in, but why are they looking like this? And I started looking at other risk factors. Whenever I traveled overseas, I get to know, my other, friends that I would meet from Germany and Netherlands, and you realize quickly there's more to our lifestyle than just diet and exercise, man. There's also like your vacation, even the vacation different than us.
Yeah, I mean, I think like our lifestyle is very different, right, in the United States, and I think that is a hidden factor, right? I think stress is a big one. We know the cortisol levels go up. It contributes to obesity. Contributes to insulin resistance, which means your sugars don't get broken down as well. So it kind of fuels it. There's extraneous factors that you can't study with a trial, right? I think these are the things that we have to understand.
Sperm count has dropped.
Yes.
They studied sperm counts. It has dropped globally, but especially in the United States over the last 40 years. They were able to measure it by decades, 70s, 80s, 90s, now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of physicians have this belief that we're just, I guess, over 40 million Americans are just lazy, but we still have the highest GDP in the world. They're working multiple jobs. I don't think they're lazy. I don't think our patients need ridicule. I think they need to relax. I think they need roses. The average American worker is overworked. He has the least amount of vacation.
Yeah.
Women give birth at the hospital, the nurses. They only get like
they're not
1 month of maternity leave.
Yeah.
In Europe, it's 1 year mandatory paid.
Yeah.
And I'm just, this stuff is adding up. There's 2 types of fat in the body. There's subcutaneous fat and then there's visceral fat. Which one's the worst fat?
Which one do people think is the worst fat? Probably the subcutaneous fat.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
They think it's the worst fat.
Yeah.
It's the one that definitely, it shows in the dress.
Yeah.
But actually visceral fat is the one that is really bad.
Yeah.
Fat is not like a cushion. Fat is like like subcutaneous fat kind of is like a cushion, but
Yeah.
visceral is like a gland. It's
Yeah.
glandular.
Yeah.
It's secreting, hormones and other things that are counteracting your insulin, that are causing inflammation, that are causing potentially cancer. I mean, you're an oncologist.
So we see that in breast cancer.
There you go.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So breast tissue, fatty tissue, secretes estrogen, and so that's why we know. I mean, it's linked obesity with breast cancer, obesity with colon cancer is
And if they were to lose weight, their cancer rate just goes down too. Yeah.
the risk, and it's proven. That's
Yeah.
proven to be beneficial, and so yeah, that fat is bad in a way.
But what's ironic though is visceral fat, as evil as it is, out of the two fats, it actually is the most amenable to diet and exercise. So then the question goes back, well, why don't we just diet and exercise better? This is where I think the rest of the lifestyle, equation matters. The average patient of mine, has some kind of job. They wake up around 6, 7 a.m. to go to the first job, whether it's a teacher, an accountant, a loan officer, whatever they are. They do that job first. That's usually in the morning up until maybe, say, between 3 to 5, he's done with that main job. Then when he or she is done, they then start their second job, whether it's Uber driving, DoorDash delivery, or some other side hustle. Then they're done with that. Then there's a vlog or a blog they're working on, or another business and some other venture that goes on from like 7 to like 10 or 11.
But where's the time?
Where's the time? Yeah, I mean they're having 30-minute lunches, which I think is completely insane. I grew up thinking it was normal to have a 30-minute lunch. I remember in school we were taught 30-minute lunch.
Eat when you can.
Yeah. That was not normal. You're supposed to have a longer lunch. In fact, whenever people eat lunch and they yawn, remember they told us, oh yeah, it's just because of carbs. We eat carbs in the morning. We have orange juice and toast in the morning. How come I'm not exhausted in the morning?
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff we have done here in our drive for overproductivity. Yeah. I think what has harmed us significantly has been our overproductive nature. We must produce the most money possible, which is why we have the highest GDP.
Right.
That's not a lazy person. That's a hardworking person. But then at the flip side, convenience. We want our citizens to be comfortable. We want comfort. I want to watch Netflix on the phone. Right. I want to make it accessible. And with that comes more marketing to boost more consumerism and boost more capitalism. We have made a system that is very heavy on productivity and very sedentary, very limited on recovery. Mm-hmm. And now what has happened is, it's like when you drive your car too fast, you can smell the fumes of your tires. Yeah. That's what's happened to our bodies from the inside. You can smell the smoke of your endocrine system. It is burned out. Your adrenal glands are burned out. Your cortisol levels are high. Your sperm count is now lower. Right. You now have insulin resistance. Your visceral fat, which technically is the easier fat to get rid of, but not for Americans. It's the worst fat, which is causing all the cancer. Right. Which leads me to my question, what do we do about it? I had a very, very long-spirited debate yesterday, or a few days ago, with another medical colleague of mine. He's a physician. Yeah. And he gave me the same lines that most Americans do. Americans are lazy. They need to get off their ass. They're just lazy, and that's why they're fat. And I said, okay, so what's the solution? Oh, walk for 1 hour a day. I'm like, okay. Well, besides the fact they're working 2 to 4 jobs now, let's suppose they just did, CrossFit, which is very high intensity exercise for 1 hour. The studies have been done on that. They're not all losing weight. I mean, they might have better cardiovascular outcomes, but not by that much either. They're still stuck in the same obesity problem. Right. So what is the solution? How does the American lose the weight? Now, I think the reason the European is okay and the French are okay, despite them having high calorie diets, refined carbs, and alcohol, way more than us, by the way. Yeah. I think they're okay because those steps they needed, that activity, they got it continuously throughout the day. It wasn't bolused. You see, us, we are sedentary all day, not by choice. That's
right. That's the
we're not in the factory anymore. We're not out in the field carrying the bale of hay. Yep. That's not the nature of our work. We are a services sector. We are at the office. We're doing stuff through the computer, and that's just the way it is. But France also has computers. So does Germany. So does Switzerland. They have computers too. Right. Yeah. So why are they the way they are? We are the way that we are.
I think that's what we're trying to say is that they have more movement in their day. than we do.
Sure.
And I think that probably plays a big role. And I really truly believe that, what we're using GLP-1s for here, they might be able to achieve that through their own body.
So GLP-1s are found in the body. That they mimic your own body. Everyone has glucagon like peptides in their body.
Right. Yeah.
I guess what made their special was they modified the structure in a way so they can patent it and make their billions, which is good for them. But I made a statement earlier. I'm going to reiterate it. I think the average American obesity is inevitable because there are structural problems in your society. I disagree with the notion that this is an individual failing or a moral failing. You're fat equals you're lazy, which is not true. Working 3-4 jobs a day is pretty stressful. Making the country have the highest GDP in the world takes a lot of hard work. I don't think these guys are driving the Uber because they want to be lazy. If they want to be lazy, they can just watch Netflix for 4 hours.
Right.
They're not. They're working. They're trying to work.
It's just the mode of work is kind of fueling
exactly
what the problem
which
is.
goes back to productivity. We are measured first and foremost by how much money we make and how much we can buy. We watch, these advertising. The car manufacturer says, "Oh, you earned it. Reward yourself. Get a Porsche." So we are putting this consumerism message in every aspect of our life that if you want to be the best, you have to buy the best. You have to earn the best to buy the best. Productivity. This is it. Right. And this has murdered us. The European is very different than we are. I've met them in Africa and all my travels in Asia abroad. They're very much about their lifestyles, man.
Yeah.
They're like, they meet me. Oh, you're from America. How long are you on holiday from? Holiday? You mean vacation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just on vacation for 9 days.
Yeah.
Oh, how about you? I'm on holiday. What does that mean? Oh, well, I'm going to be visiting this country for 3 months.
Yeah, right.
3 months. Are you a millionaire? No. How'd you pay for it? I'm not. My company is. Your company's paying for a 3-month vacation. Because these guys wanted their lifestyle, they demanded and got their governments and the companies to take care of them.
Right.
There's a belief system out there that everyone ought to have a certain lifestyle, and it matters because they don't look like, and they have bad habits too. They're smoking weed.
They're doing all this stuff.
They're smoking weed in the Netherlands and getting munchies too.
Yeah, right.
They're drinking lots of beer in Germany, and they're eating high refined carbs with pizza and pasta in Italy, and then drinking very calorie rich foods.
Right.
And they're not doing yoga either, by the way. They're not. I mean, some of them are, and that's great, but most of them are just normal. They're just walking to work, coming back from work.
Right.
When I was in France and I vacation, I saw people, boys and girls, when they're going to date, it was at a park. They would walk in the park. That's the date. Not here.
No.
Date is I'm working all day. I'm going to meet you at this bar so I can have a drink because I'm miserable. Have a drink with you and have this Buffalo Wild Wing. And I only have 1 hour on the so-called date. And then I got to go back and wake up in the morning and do it again. It's like an inconvenience. And that goes towards life.
Yeah, so too. I think that's a big deal, and that's why, I think as we shift it kind of more towards cancer, I mean, this is driving things that actually really negatively impact our health.
Correct.
And how do we change that? I think is a big deal.
So my thinking is unless we get courage on the governmental level and agree to spend hundreds of trillions of dollars remaking our infrastructure so that we make it a less car-based and a more walking-based mass transit,
which is not.
It'll never happen.
Yeah.
No, I will die 2 generations over before that happens.
Right. Yeah.
We are entrenched. We have roads. We have highways. We have industries around the fuel and auto industry, and large agro and the food sector are entrenched too. You'll never beat McDonald's or those guys.
They will be here forever.
Yeah, they will outlive us. So that's not going to happen. So what can we do? I mean, when the GLP-1s came out, on the one hand, I was happy that we were finally addressing it somehow. Yeah. But then, the moral side of it is like, oh, what a tragedy. We had to make a drug for this. But then you begin reading the data. Medscape reported, I read a Medscape article. They cited in their study, last year, Americans for the first time in 30 years collectively lost 0.5% of their body fat. Alcohol stocks are down. Fast food stocks are down. I was like, wait a second. This is really good news. What happened? And they're all tracing it to the
With the
GLP-1.
GLP-1s, yeah.
You can't drink alcohol without a GLP-1. You can, but you won't drink much. You
No.
feel sick. You puke.
Yeah.
You're not gonna. You can go to McDonald's. You can have maybe some of a burger, but you can't have all of it. You're gonna get sick. That's. I think one reason a lot of my patients fail on the GLP-1 has been because they refused to make lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
I chat with them and they're like, "Oh yeah, Wegovy sucked. Didn't work for me." Did it? How'd you get it? First, they're getting this cheap compounded crap.
Oh, that's a whole different, yeah.
Which
yeah.
doesn't even work. I mean, it works, but it's not it's not the real thing.
Right.
I mean, explain for the public, what's the difference between a compounded medication versus a brand or generic medicine? Because I've heard some people argue that, oh yeah, it's the same argument as brand versus generic. They both work, but that's not true, is it?
No. And first of all, none of these are generic right now. So,
They're not.
Yeah, so you're not going to find that. If someone tells you they have a generic.
So what's a brand and a generic, and then what's a compound? There's three different things.
So brand is the pharmaceutical company that invented it. So Novartis or somebody created this drug. They have a patent on that drug. That is the drug. It's the brand. Generic is when that patent is lifted.
Correct.
And multiple companies can come in and take that same compound and make it. But that also has to be tested FDA.
Correct. It has to be.
And
what
then
about compounding?
Compounding is, depends on where you go, but it's like a mom and pop shop that's putting it together.
The pharmacist himself is the guy. He's the manufacturer now.
Exactly.
He's cooking in the kitchen and he's making his own burger and his own
Walter
pizza.
White is putting it together.
Walter White's putting it together, exactly.
But yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Okay. So why did the FDA? Because FDA started cracking down on the compounded ones. They don't want them to do it anymore. They allowed them at one point to make these GLP-1s like Wegovy, but then they stopped. What is the reason now? On Reddit, the people say, "Oh, because FDA is corrupt and they're paid by big pharma, and that's why." But what's your take on that?
I wouldn't think so. I think there needs to be regulation in this area, because without regulation, it's like I said earlier, it's the wild, wild west. You need to know what's going into your body if you're expecting results. If you're just going for a drug and expecting it to behave like a brand name drug, you might be very much shorthanded because you don't know what you're doing.
The thing with the compounded product is compounded pharmacies don't have to follow the FDA, and they don't have to prove efficacy either. Whereas FDA is very strict. If you're making a drug and you're making a claim, you have to prove it.
Yep.
If you say that this drug will make you run faster by this many seconds, like, okay, show us your trial data. What's your control?
So what I
prove
like
it
to
that you have to prove
so
it.
I tell patients, like, there's something called complementary alternative medicine.
Sure.
CAM.
Correct. CAM.
They're not regulated by the FDA. So when people go and take certain supplements, I'm like, you don't know if each supplement is dosed equivalently.
Correct.
One could have a little more.
They're blends. They're hidden in blends.
Yeah.
The moment you see the word blend, it means mystery.
Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
That's my hesitance.
So you know, the thing is, like, the compounded, they don't have to follow the rule. They're trying. It's like you're trying to make your pizza just like the one from Domino's. You're not obligated to put in the same ingredients, make it the same way, and you may not have the same efficacy, and you don't have to prove it either. You can just claim it.
You can just claim it.
So there are lawsuits flying. FDA began cracking down on people making claims, and now you'll see these online, our retailers are admitting that, okay, we have compounded. Like, they used to make the claims, oh, it's just like it, and they stopped doing that because FDA made them stop doing it.
Yeah.
You can't make a claim that's not true. But because you can't prove the same effectiveness, and the risk might be higher, I saw a study on PubMed. There was like over 1,000% increase in cause of poison control.
Oh my gosh.
Mostly attributed to compounded products, but because of dosing errors.
I mean, that's what would scare me. That's why I think the public needs to understand.
But why are we getting to a point? Do you feel like, as a physician, more and more patients, not only are they self-diagnosing, which has been going on for millennia, but they don't trust us anymore. They want to go on Reddit or these places and get the drug directly and try it themselves, which I think is why peptides are so popular now.
Yeah, I mean,
they think it's a secret that we're hiding from them.
Yeah, no. I think that's the scariest part. When you go to a social media post and you see a link through Instagram to go buy this peptide somewhere, it's accessible, but it's not necessarily the safest thing and the right thing for people. And I think you don't need a doctor necessarily to tell you that, but you have to be educated before you click on something like that. And I think understanding the background as to why there are regulations, why we go through these processes to be able to get a drug, there's a benefit there.
But why do you think we're in this world now where some wellness coach, 25-year-old wellness coach with a great haircut, and this nice smile on YouTube has more credibility than our doctors? Like, why
I
are
think
they
it's
selling?
Misinformation. I think people are not taking the time to understand and validating the source.
Sure.
I think that makes a big difference.
You know, do you feel like since COVID there's some kind of disconnect between the patient and the physician? I feel like our relationship got harmed out of that.
Very much so.
We haven't recovered.
Everybody
yet.
went in, right, and everybody was reading what was there available, and they weren't actually getting the human contact to talk to their doctors face to face or their providers. And so I think a lot of misinformation just came out of COVID and how it was managed, how we prevented it, and that brought a lot of distrust to the medical system, I think. Yeah, unfortunately.
So how do physicians rebuild trust?
I think it takes time. I think it takes this. I think it's connecting in a different way with people through different mediums, because that same old doctor who was 65 walking in with that white lab coat into the room and dictating how things were is not what medicine is now. I think medicine is a shared decision, understanding the person that you're talking to, sharing your knowledge and what you've read, and sharing what they know and what they've read. And now in the day and age with ChatGPT and Claude and everything else, that patient across to you, they might be on it while they're talking to you. So you have to
record us. They record us,
and they'll fact check you.
No, I'm not recording. It's just by ChatGPT. I'm just making sure you're right. Like, okay.
So I think it's you got to be able to level with them in a different way.